Bullying, toxic, peer pressure, breakfast with benefits.
4 little episodes and the world gone crazy. I mean, we need to talk about this because everyone is talking about this. And as mothers, as having kids, as having teenagers, as everything can reflect on us as well in that little household. 4 simple, very simple episodes.
Yeah. And
Shook the world.
Brilliant filmmaking, by the way, because it is a very creative way that they capture this as terms of filmmaking. You know, you feel like you are part of it. You feel like you're in the room with them. Or that's how I felt.
Yes, one shot every episode. How do they do it? It's unbelievable. Like one shot, it starts and you never feel any boredom. You don't feel any repeat. You forget that it's a one shot scene as well.
Exactly.
You forget about it. It's
so brilliantly done.
Brilliantly done. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you had watched it before, right? And then we talked about it with Beza, and then she watched it.
Yes.
Or was it the other way around?
Yeah, I watched it some time ago.
I remember we were at the Panera, and then I mentioned Adolescence, and I think you said, "What are you guys talking about?" And then
I
the
watched
whole world opened
How come
up.
you didn't hear about it?
In my daughter's school, the teachers and everybody was forcing the kids to watch it too.
Forcing.
Really?
Forcing, like everybody had to. I made them sit down
Really?
and made them watch it. So we said, "Oh, okay, Zoe, then you have to watch with us too."
So you guys watched together?
Yes.
And what did you think about it? What did you say?
Of course, I shit in my pants.
But did you guys have a chance to talk about it afterwards with her?
Yes, of course, the basic things, that how dangerous social media can be and how you have to watch out what you're sending to your friends and never ever trust that much, and this, of course, the typical ones too. But she didn't scare at all. She just liked the cinematography as well. She liked the boy a lot. That was the very...
She thought he was cute? Or
yes, cute and amazing actor.
Amazing acting too.
Amazing actor.
Yeah.
Very, very cute.
Yeah.
Very handsome. I'm like, but hello. By the way, we need to say this is a spoiler alert as well, right?
Yes, we have to say that we might spoil.
Yeah, in the beginning, maybe spoiler alert if you didn't watch it.
Yep. Did you watch with Matt?
No, I told Matt about it. I don't think he watched it, but I would like him to watch it. But he does understand. And we talk about like cyberbullying, what's going on online in the social media environment. And he's fully aware of what's appropriate and not appropriate. And he doesn't actually post a lot.
I love the series, especially because I feel like it's not taking sides very much, where it's not blaming the school or the internet per se, or the parents, or even the friends. It's all a mix
factual,
of factors that unfortunately ended up like this. What we do know, I think, is how much adolescence has gotten more difficult over the years.
Yeah.
We're facing a reality with our kids right now that our parents never did, with the internet, with even globalization. And we don't even know as parents how to best control the usage of internet with our kids. We don't know how to best give limits to them in this cyberspace.
And the other thing that scares me about this and also makes me think how easy it is online to bully and pick a fight, because it's kind of like a one-dimensional atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
So you're just writing. The other person is not there. It's not present. It's not looking into your eyes, right? Like you're saying something against somebody, bullying, whatever. but the other person doesn't have a say to it,
And
right? You're
Krista,
writing it
so many
down.
times they don't even mention the person's name
Yeah.
because they all know that the group knows who they're talking
Oh,
about because of
exactly.
some social
So
cues.
it's not,
Yes.
Right?
it's not a real fight or conversation or argument, right? Because the other person is not there. And it's so much easier to text and write because you are in a safe space, you are in your home. Guys,
Doesn't
that,
feel real.
what the hell are you doing,
And
right?
it doesn't feel
It doesn't
real.
feel real,
right?
but the impact that you cause, and especially that you talk about that it's the name is not even said, but the group knows who it is, and it's like the whole world is against you all of a sudden.
First episode, I think that it was all about inside the police station. And I'm going to say the same. Even the police didn't know what was written on those texts.
Right.
Yeah.
They thought the guy's posts were liked by the girl. They didn't know the language. Even police doesn't know. How the hell the parents are going to, as you said, have a control, have a saying, have understanding what's going on. The whole police detectives realized later because the son of the detective told the father, remember, this
what
means
it
that,
means.
this means that, and they then realize, oh my God, this is totally something else.
It's like a huge discrepancy. We don't understand the youth these days. We don't understand the language they speak.
They have their own vocabulary.
Yeah.
That teenagers have their own culture. This has always been the case, I believe. But now that they also have a different reality, like a whole space in the internet where they can live and talk in a different language that we can't really translate. And it keeps changing, right? Because they also have to be in this space all the time to see how much it changes. Because probably one thing now means something, and then 2 months from now, it means a different thing.
And then there are new vocabulary comes from, it's like, it's this evolving, growing, new language that we don't speak.
As you say, one word is cool 1 week before. The next week it's not cool. When someone says that, you're uncool. And even cool is not cool, probably saying like that.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about this, I kind of see why this has something to do with what we were talking before we started recording about the diminished reality, right? I went to my daughter's school, and they had a speaker there, and he was talking about his job as a professor in UM, and he talked a lot about augmented reality and VR and virtual reality, but he also mentioned diminished reality, which in our lives translates to those AirPods, right? That block out, cancel noise from outside. So this is becoming a thing, right? And how can we keep up with all this technology that's actually keeping these kids more into their own world and not understanding that their actions have repercussions in outside world.
Yeah.
In the episode where the psychologist is there, and I love that she asks, do you realize that you killed the girl? Do you know what killing means?
Oh my God, that part was unbelievable.
Do you understand what killing means? Because I remember the first episode, they asked him, do you understand what being in prison means? And he gave the perfect answer, right? And then 2 episodes later, she's asking, do you understand what killing means? And I don't remember what he said, but like, I think she answered for him. She's not going to come back. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you realize
She brought up that the parents of this girl never gonna be able to see her, hug her again. She's gone.
Because he was still blaming her.
According to their crazy codes, it would make sense for her to be quote unquote killed because it's a very enclosed code of boyhood or manhood or whatever you want to call that. So
manosphere.
And in the internet
they
world,
called manosphere these days. Manosphere. And this is the most scary thing actually happening slowly and more with the social media. I was gonna talk about that also, that what distracted me the most to teach my daughter. You said what was her reaction, and so far she is just 13, but it reminded me to warn her that men might go crazy when they got rejected. Which man to choose? And a big topic that manosphere is this actually. Some cannot handle to be rejected by a woman. And that is, for me, that TV series is mostly about that. Even the boy is 13, but it is about that. It's the manosphere. All these things are happening right now. They're saying all woman has to be with men. It's a cult right now. It's a very dangerous cult.
Have you thought about how crazy it is, and also the times that we're living in, where those series can at the same time help us understand what's going on, but also enhance the possibility of these things to happen more often because of the mere fact that it's being shown. Just like when we have those crazy cases where kids shoot schools, etc., and they want to be famous, and they want to just, if that's something that happens, maybe it's something that I only had in my mind, it can be done. I think there's this ambiguity there with this series where if on one hand, it helps us get informed, but on the other hand, things that had never crossed a teenager's mind now becomes
a reality and a possibility.
Yeah. Also, I just remembered how interesting it is that this series, and I think it's very important that it did that we never saw the other side of what happened, right? We never saw what the family of the girl felt. We never saw, what the reality of the fact. We were just dealing with the possibility of something having been done. We never saw the blood. We never saw the knife. We only hear one thing or another, right? When, for example, the boy picked up that horrible scene at the house, and he gets into the van. The policeman, who also has a son in the same school, he says that he spent his whole night dealing with the case, but from the version of the girl who got murdered, right? So he was dealing with all that. We were not dealing with all that. Had we been dealing with blood, a murder scene, a murdered girl.
Because we were trying to build empathy with the boy.
Yes.
Yes. Like, why would we do empathy with the boy? Because we didn't see the other side.
Right.
Of the family.
Yes, of course. But isn't it great that they did that? Because if you see reality as it is, like the murdered child, the murdered girl, how easy it is for you to take sides,
I'm like, till the end, I was so stupid. I was believing he didn't do it.
I don't say you were stupid. I think that's pretty
I was
possible.
so convinced something is going to come up. Like something is going to I was so convinced about that.
But they showed the footage.
Maybe I didn't want to believe it.
I love that you said that and that you felt that, because you felt kind of like his dad when he was watching the girl being murdered by his son, where he said, no, that can't be. You didn't do this, right, child? Right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny how people react differently, because I am the one, I think, that I would probably say, shit, you did it. This is you there. Don't lie to me. I know what's happening. I saw that.
And we were also hoping why the boy is like that. So the family, the school, we were hoping for a someone to blame. That's why, because it's an obvious, recoverable reason. There was nothing like that. No. He just did it. Yeah. The family is not the problem. The school is out of control, of course. Like they showed whole episode how school has zero control over the kids.
Over anything. Teachers, homework,
zero.
Fights.
Nothing.
No respect. Nothing.
So
no
school
attention.
Doesn't exist in their lives at all. That we saw. But I was hoping from the father, from the mother, like, please give me an obvious reason so I can, I'm not that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have still control of the situation. But there was none.
And what do you guys think about the father-son relationship? Because I think that
Very
was also
interesting, yeah.
that came out for me, that the
Tell me.
expectations. I think the father was the strong working class guy and he tries to be the best dad.
Where from the boys' side, he was playing football?
I think soccer.
Soccer.
Yeah.
He was playing soccer and he didn't, and he looked away.
Exactly.
That moment.
He
And
kind
then
of
we heard
denied.
the same thing from the father. I couldn't
Yeah.
look at him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As a father who's not standing by his son and he feels ashamed because he's like a macho father.
The other thing I found interesting was when he said that he got beaten by his dad and that he tried to not do
yes.
that.
There was so many things in
Yeah.
this
Yes.
TV series. Yes.
And I, in terms of like my work as a therapist, I feel like there's so much more evidence right now that these things, because of epigenetics, these behaviors that we suffered in our childhood, they don't die because we didn't do the same thing with our children. We have to understand and do better, but not because, since I got beaten up, I can't beat him up, and that's that. We're fine. The violence still runs in the family in other ways.
Yeah.
It's almost like the blood is dripping in the generations.
Totally.
Without even you putting your hands on your child. Sometimes the mere fact that you don't put your hand on a child because of your fear of what memory causes you is a problem, because it becomes an unconscious, lingering feeling in your family that everybody feels it some way, but they can't touch it.
Yeah.
They don't know exactly what it is. I believe I'm a strong believer in talking to your kids, talking about the difficult.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
So how do you get past this so you are not hitting your kid and then it's a transgenerational
Right.
thing?
What happened to you in your childhood, right? Son, I want to tell you something. Like when I was growing up, this is what happened. I make a point of not doing this to you. I hope you understand that if we have problems, really would like us to talk about, to sit down and have a good man-to-man talk, whatever, because I'm not going to beat you up. This is not how I'm going to do it. How can I improve? If there's a lot of silence, it's so much worse. Sometimes silence is worse than beating up your child.
Yeah, it's passive aggression.
Well, I'm silent because I'm suffering from that big time. This is one of my biggest parenthood problem.
Really? You were beaten up when you...
Ooh, yeah. I'm Turkish, man. This is like from both parts also.
Then this is a good opportunity for us to...
I mean, the conversation will change, but we'll talk later. I am really, really trying not to. But when you lose control, that genes or whatever in psychology, you say that, but it calls come to you, and after seconds later, you're like, oh my God, I try to stop this.
It's the trauma.
That's right, because
trauma.
only you don't know what to do. And it's not like my husband. My husband never beaten up at all. That's why he can stay so calm, because he didn't see the situations like that. For me, when it's the situation arise and when I also, how do you say it, lose control or have my boundaries out and it comes and I'm saying the monster is here again. But I'm taming the monster, but I talk a lot to my kids about this.
So
they know.
They don't know that you were...
They know, and I immediately apologize, immediately explain how wrong it is. Or when we yell, all the craziness, crisis happens, I like immediately say, I'm so
that's
sorry.
That's amazing, because you realize this and you're trying to correct yourself. And I think when you're dealing with childhood trauma that comes and affects your adult life with your kids, these are amazing steps.
You don't know
and
better.
It takes time,
like,
right? You're not going to do it all the time, the perfect way, the adult way, and then you kind of behave as the child you were again.
Which we are.
But this is a good pathway to grow.
Was there a rhyme and reason? There was it was because you got out of school, late and you came to.
No, I don't. You never remember the reasons.
There were no.
You don't remember when you have a childhood. Like it's a because their parents did worse.
Yeah.
Right.
The other parents did worse.
It's almost
even
like
worse.
it was part of raising kids. I mean, we got
That's a normal thing.
we got beaten a little bit as well, and my parents,
One
the
thing
teachers,
is a little bit. The other thing is spanked.
Yeah.
Right, all the time.
By the way, yelling and beating is a little bit the same group.
It's
Yeah.
abuse.
abuse.
It's
Verbal
same group.
abuse.
Yelling is like
Physical
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
physical
Yeah.
yelling. So that's my biggest problem.
And a sad thing about it that you talked about the transgenerational traumas, that our parents' generation had all the trauma and their parents had the trauma and they were just carrying it. I don't remember my parents talking about like self-healing, self-care, working on your traumas. This was not in the part of life. It was
No.
like, yeah, this is what I brought, and then I have kids, and I'm gonna do the same thing that happened to
But
me.
it goes away.
It's
I know.
really, it's
by the
really
way.
happening in our generation.
Yes.
I think that people that we have so much knowledge now, so much research and shrinks and this and psychoanalysts, and then be like, oh, wait a
And
minute.
science.
Yeah, science. There is so much stuff we can do, and we don't have to repeat history.
Do we understand that not long ago, there was no concept of childhood? There was no such a thing.
As parenthood.
No.
Yeah.
Like not that long ago, people would have kids to help them with labor.
Yeah.
And if
Sad.
they died,
Sad.
well,
Yeah.
one dies,
Yeah.
the other comes
Yeah, they had
around.
10 kids and three
they
of them
help
didn't
with-
make it, and then they had others.
They help
and
with
they
the
were,
plantation
Yeah.
or with the cattle
Yeah.
or
Julia, you will know better, of course,
It was
about
free,
this.
Hopefully,
free
I don't know if I
labor.
would know
It was
better.
free
No,
labor.
no.
free
labor.
labor.
What I'm saying, this
Almost free labor.
we carry with our genes. I read
Epigenetic.
about it, epigenetics. Yes, it dies in generation. I read about it. So my kids are gonna be better
Oh, for sure.
to their kids,
Yeah,
and their kids is gonna be much better. So it's gonna go away one day, one generation. So that's my hope about this.
Yeah, I believe that we can be an active part of it by talking. I really believe in talking. I believe in like having conversations about what you fear and putting it for them so that they understand how you felt is important. It also grows empathy on them so that they understand where you're coming from, and the love bond grows instead of shrinks because of a trauma, because that's what you don't want. You don't want the trauma to become something that puts you apart, but that brings you together.
So
that's how you heal.
Yeah. So that scene when the father was crying like that, I cried too
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
with him because I know exactly what he says.
Exactly.
Yes, what he's feeling, what he's trying to do at his most. So that scene was for me the most powerful part.
So what do you guys would give to parents as an advice watching the series, watching it with their kids and having all these anxiety about it and parenting and living in this world?
The one thing that came to my mind right now is I don't think it's an advice, but I think it's something that I was thinking about. When the episode of the psychologist, how she managed to deal with him, so interesting because she was maternal, but she couldn't go past a certain point because she was there for the hearing. And if everything that's being said there is going to be recorded, it's going to be like used against him and against her. So, for example, at the end, when he says, I thought you liked me, but you liked me, right? That was so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a good moment to explain to the kids how difficult sometimes being an adult is, because you're dealing with a lot of moving pieces, right? If you have a job, you have to stand up for it and not let a lot of emotions get into the circumstances. And I also remember that they asked me in the end, why did he say the truth? Like, why didn't he just keep...
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
that's a good question.
He confessed because then they would stop looking for the murderer, right? Because they were still looking for the murderer since he doesn't admit. And then he would get the sentence right away. And from the sentence, he can ask for a plea or like for a reduction of a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Without a sentence, you can spend your whole life in prison, right? You could potentially, if they don't have the knife, if they don't find the evidence, you can potentially spend your whole life in prison without a sentence. If he gets the sentence, maybe he can get to have half of it at some point. So there's a lot of practical things of life that can be discussed in that series, I think, where kids don't have this feeling for the reality, how hard it is to go into a police station. How many of you have gone to a police station with a kid? It's almost like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right?
You made a really good point. I'm still thinking about that part, that we didn't see any blood. We didn't see the knife. We didn't see his body with blood. What happened to the clothes? Like that, and so clean. And
But yet, so impactful.
Yes. So clean, but also everybody has an opinion. Everybody got touched by it.
The filmography really helps because of the lack of cuts, which is interesting, right? Lack of cuts.
Yes.
Lack of evidence, lack of cuts. But I felt from the moment it started to the end, I felt like I was there.
Yeah, I don't like the word advice. Who am I?
Who are we?
Not advice,
So
but your
advice.
takeaway. Like my takeaway is, if watch this series with your kid, let them watch it and talk about it.
Yes. Yes. Teenagers, sometimes that's I see from my daughter, because we are so scared and we're always talking about social media, the fear, the danger. They don't hear it anymore because, they're talking again.
Same old.
The same thing. Yes, social media is bad, blah, blah, and they roll eyes, and then you lost them. So that's how this is not an advice. Maybe less talk, I don't know, and then only once in a while say something, because we keep repeating it. They don't get the important parts. Does it make sense? I don't know. I feel it in mine, so I should talk less.
And maybe one thing that...
Because I had that in my life too. I remembered suddenly.
You remembered what?
Boyfriends getting wild when you
Getting
just don't want it.
upset, because of
things happened to me very badly. And I was even thinking, that's my fault maybe,
But,
because I just didn't want to be with them anymore.
Can I ask a question?
That was all.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Don't you guys think it could happen vice versa? Girls could get upset for rejection and get like...
Of course it
Not of course, but there's violent wise, I was thinking. Violence, sorry.
I think what happens most is that girls are taught in a different way, where they keep their feelings more to themselves and they're less aggressive than boys, also because of the hormones, etc., and culture. But it's not
I'm rolling
impossible.
my eyes.
But it's not impossible.
You have a son.
Exactly.
That's why you're afraid of the girls. I have a daughter, also son, but
so
now
we are afraid of
But
somebody.
of course,
yeah.
I mean, for sure it can happen to a boy. But if you look at the numbers in prison of women versus men, still the population of
physically they're stronger. Maybe
men
that's why.
in prisons is so much greater than women.
And I'm not just
in
talking
general,
about
especially...
physical. It could be emotional, stalking somebody, like
or
not giving up, bad-mouthing them and stuff like
in
that.
social media.
Well, she was bad-mouthing him.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
that's why I said
that's how
that,
it started. Yeah.
Bullying.
Bullying him.
Exactly.
And there are consequences too.
Or maybe bullies can get scared after this TV series and shut up.
Maybe, hopefully. But like, it's so interesting because, maybe to sum it up, what would have happened if she had done everything she did, because she also did stuff. She bullied him, and nothing had happened. He would be carrying this inside himself, like so many of us do, and there's no consequence for her.
Yeah.
It's
Girls can
interesting
star
as well
boys
that
forever.
so many people do harm to others without any consequences. She
Yeah.
got the worst possible consequence, but things have consequences.
Bullying, toxic, peer pressure, breakfast with benefits.